It was a bright day on Earth when the message arrived. No one expected it, especially not with the Earth still recovering from the last Great War. Humanity was not prepared for what came next. The sky darkened in an instant, not because of a storm, but because of something far worse. The arrival of a fleet from the Tselvarian Empire. The Tselvarians were a race of aliens who had controlled hundreds of worlds across the galaxy for centuries. Their empire was known for its incredible power, their ships, weapons, and technology far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. They were known to conquer worlds by force, demanding submission from every species they encountered. And now, they had set their sights on Earth. The message from the Tselvarian Emperor was simple, but terrifying. Submit to the Empire, or face the consequences. The Earth's leaders sat in a massive conference room, their faces pale as the broadcast played for the first time. The United Earth Council, made up of representatives from every nation, listened in silence. They had seen threats before, alien sightings, strange signals, but nothing like this. A fleet from another galaxy was right on their doorstep. They think we'll bow to them, General William Clark, the head of the Earth Defense Forces, said quietly. His voice was filled with frustration and disbelief. They don't know us. President Sophia Miller, standing at the head of the table, frowned. She was a woman who had faced many crises in her life, but this was different. The Tselvarians had never failed to conquer a world. They were unstoppable, and they made it clear that Earth had little chance. We can't just give in, she said, her voice firm. We have to stand our ground. One of the scientists at the table, Dr. Emily Jo, spoke up. She was a brilliant mind, working on new technology for Earth's military. The Empire's fleet, it's enormous. We don't have the firepower to defeat them, at least not head-to-head. But, President Miller raised an eyebrow. Dr. Zhao hesitated. We don't need to defeat them in the way they expect. We're not like them. We can fight differently. General Clark looked at her with a mixture of doubt and curiosity. What do you mean? We can't match their strength directly, Dr. Zhao said, but we can outsmart them. If we hit their weak points, use our own technology to our advantage, we may have a chance. The room went silent. The Tselvarian ships were powerful, massive vessels that could easily destroy Earth's cities in an instant. Their weapons were more advanced than anything humanity had ever encountered. But it wasn't just their weapons that made the Tselvarians dangerous. It was their belief that every world they conquered would submit without a fight. The president knew that the Tselvarian Empire saw themselves as the rulers of the galaxy. They were proud, confident, and cruel. To them, humanity was just another weak species to conquer. They would never expect Earth to fight back, much less stand tall against them. But that was the mistake they were making. We refuse to kneel, President Miller said, her voice rising with determination. Tell the military to prepare. We'll show them what Earth can do. The decision was made. Earth would not submit to the Tselvarian Empire, no matter how impossible it seemed. Every soldier, every scientist, and every civilian would be called to do their part. The world would unite in ways it had never done before. And though Earth was far weaker in terms of technology, the human spirit was something the Tselvarians had never encountered, and it would be their greatest weapon. The Tselvarians didn't know it yet, but they had just made their first mistake. Earth would not give up. And when they realized that, they would understand something the galaxy had long forgotten. Humanity was a force that could not be ignored. In the next few days, Earth's leaders began to prepare. They had no illusions about the challenge ahead. The Tselvarian fleet was powerful, and their demands were clear. But President Miller knew that humanity had something the Empire couldn't understand: resilience. If they wanted Earth to kneel, they would have to fight for it. As the Tselvarian ships loomed closer in the sky, humanity's response was clear. We will not bow. We will stand, and we will fight. And so, the first chapter of humanity's defiance began. The battle for Earth's survival had only just started, and the Selverian Empire would soon learn that underestimating humanity would be their greatest mistake. The days following President Miller's declaration were filled with intense preparation. Humanity had never faced a threat like this before. The Selverian fleet was massive, their weapons powerful, and their technology far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. But what the Empire didn't understand was that humanity had something even stronger than advanced tech: the will to survive. As the Selverian warships began to approach Earth, the people of Earth worked together like never before. Scientists and engineers rushed to complete secret weapons and defenses. Military forces were put on high alert. Every government and every person knew what was at stake. If they didn't fight back, Earth would be destroyed. The first blow came quickly. The Selverian fleet arrived in orbit around Mars, their ships so large that they blotted out the stars. The Empire's tactics were simple: land their massive vessels, intimidate the population, and demand immediate surrender. It was the way they had conquered countless other worlds. The Selverians expected humans to crumble before them, just like all the other species they had oppressed. But as the Selverian ships began to descend, they were met with something they hadn't expected: a fierce defense. Hidden beneath the surface of Mars, Earth had established several defense systems designed to counter the Empire's technology. These systems were not as advanced as the Selverian weapons, but they were built with one purpose in mind: to survive. Mars, with its red dust and empty landscapes, had become Earth's first line of defense. Suddenly, the Selverian ships were under attack. Laser blasts shot out from hidden bases, striking their warships from all directions. The Selverians were stunned. They had thought Mars was just a barren rock, something too unimportant to guard. They had no idea humanity had been preparing for this day. General William Clark, the leader of Earth's defense forces, watched from a command center in a secret military base. "It's working," he said, his eyes fixed on the holographic map in front of him. "Keep the pressure on them." Despite the surprise attack, the Selverians fought back with their usual overwhelming force. Their ships were far superior in size and firepower, and it wasn't long before they began retaliating. The Mars defense systems shook as their energy shields flickered and failed under the weight of the Selverian blasts. But the humans didn't stop. They continued to fight, using everything at their disposal. Stealth drones swooped in, delivering devastating blows to the Selverian fleet. These drones were small, agile, and hard to detect. They hit quickly and vanished before the enemy could retaliate. The Selverian commanders were furious, unable to predict the humans' unpredictable tactics. "We're being attacked by tiny ships," one Selverian commander roared in frustration. "How are they so well prepared?" Back on Earth, the world watched the battle unfold in real time. News stations broadcast the struggle, showing images of Mars burning under the attack. But for every Selverian victory, there was a human counterattack. The people of Earth cheered for every successful strike, as though their very lives depended on the next hit. And for many they did. Dr. Emily Joe, the lead scientist working on Earth's new weaponry, watched closely from her lab. She had developed a special type of quantum missile that could bend space-time itself. Though the Selverians had the upper hand in firepower, humanity's ingenuity had given them a chance. The quantum missiles could be the game-changer they needed. "We're ready," Dr. Zhao said to her team. "Prepare the launch sequence." With one command, the first quantum missile was fired at a massive Selverian dreadnought. The weapon, designed to warp gravity, tore through space, ripping the dreadnought's energy shields apart before it even realized what was happening. The massive ship exploded in a brilliant burst of light, sending shockwaves through the remaining Selverian fleet. The Selverians had never faced a weapon like this before. They didn't understand it, and they certainly didn't know how to defend against it. In the chaos, their fleet began to panic. The humans, on the other hand, were energized. The first victory on Mars was small, but it was crucial. It showed that the Selvarians were not invincible. Earth wasn't going down without a fight. But the battle was far from over. The Selvarian fleet was massive, and they would come back with even more force. General Clark knew that the first strike was only the beginning. It was a small victory, but the war for Earth was just getting started. As the dust settled over Mars, President Miller stood in front of a live broadcast, addressing the world. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice firm and confident. "We have shown them that Earth will not kneel. We will fight for our planet, and we will fight together. This is our home, and no one is taking it from us." The world stood united. The Selvarian Empire had made a mistake. It had underestimated humanity. And now, Earth was ready to show them exactly how wrong they were. The battle on Mars had shaken the Selvarian Empire, but it wasn't over. The Selvarian fleet retreated momentarily to regroup and reassess their strategy. They had not expected such a fierce resistance from a species they had long thought weak and primitive. But the humans weren't done yet. Earth's resolve had only grown stronger. On Earth, the victory at Mars sparked something that Selvarians hadn't counted on: a global uprising. People from every corner of the planet, whether in cities or rural areas, were filled with newfound hope. The message was clear: the Empire could be beaten. In the United Earth Council, President Miller sat in a tense meeting with General Clark and the leaders of various military branches. A sense of urgency filled the room. "They'll come back stronger," General Clark said, looking at the holomap of the solar system. "The Empire won't rest until they crush us completely. We need a plan to take the fight to them." The President nodded, her gaze steely. "We'll show them what happens when you push Earth. But we can't just play defense anymore. We need to take the fight to their doorstep. We need to strike before they get a chance to reorganize." Dr. Emily Jo, the lead scientist who had developed the quantum missiles, spoke up from the back of the room. "We've been working on something. A ship, small enough to slip past their defenses, yet powerful enough to do real damage." The room fell silent. "What kind of ship?" President Miller asked, intrigued. "It's a prototype," Dr. Zhao said. "We call it the Phantom. It's equipped with the latest stealth technology, making it nearly invisible to the enemy. And it's armed with quantum bombs that can warp space-time in a way that disrupts their ships at the molecular level." A murmur of excitement ran through the room. General Clark's eyes lit up. "A weapon like that could turn the tide of this war. If we can get it close enough, we could disable their fleet and disrupt their communications." "But it's risky," Dr. Zhao added. "The Phantom will need to get close to their flagship, and we have no idea how the Empire will respond once they realize what we're capable of." President Miller thought for a moment. "We can't afford to wait for them to strike first again. If we can cripple their command center, we might be able to break their hold over the rest of the fleet." The decision was made. The Phantom would go. It was a desperate move, but Earth had no other choice. Meanwhile, high above Earth, the Selvarian Empire was preparing for their next strike. The fleet had regrouped and was ready to show the humans the power of their military might. They would not be so easily defeated again. The Selvarian commander, General Kale, stood before his fleet, a towering figure cloaked in dark armor. He surveyed his forces with a cold, calculating gaze. "The humans have proven resilient, but they are still weak," he said in his deep, harsh voice. "We will break them. Prepare to advance on Earth. Make them regret ever defying us." Back on Earth, the Phantom was ready. A sleek, silver ship, barely the size of a commercial airplane, sat in a secret launch facility on the moon. It was a masterpiece of human ingenuity, a combination of stealth and firepower designed to infiltrate the heart of the Selvarian fleet. General Clark stood before the ship, flanked by a small crew of elite pilots. "This is it," he said, his voice steady. "You'll be going into the heart of their fleet. You won't get a second chance. Make it count." Captain Maria Cortez, the leader of the Phantom crew, saluted. "We won't let you down, sir." She turned to her team. each of them specialists in their field, and gave them a nod. Let's show them what humanity can do. The ship launched from the moon's surface, silently slicing through the vacuum of space, invisible to the Xelvarian sensors. As the Phantom moved closer to the Xelvarian fleet, every member of the crew felt the weight of the mission. This was more than just a strike. This was Earth's message to the Empire. The Xelvarian ships were larger than anything humanity had ever seen, but they were also predictable. The Phantom used every advantage, slipping through gaps in the enemy's patrols. The crew worked quickly, taking out small but crucial targets, communications relays, supply depots, and energy sources, all without being detected. Finally, the Phantom reached the heart of the Xelvarian fleet, the flagship, a massive warship that controlled the entire fleet. It hovered, menacingly, at the center of the formation. "We're in position," Captain Cortez whispered, her voice tense with anticipation. "Remember, we're not just taking out a ship." General Clark's voice crackled over the comms. "We're sending a message. Humanity will never bow to the Xelvarian Empire." With a deep breath, Captain Cortez gave the order. "Launch the quantum bombs." The bombs tore through space-time, their energy rippling out in waves, shaking the very fabric of reality. The flagship's energy shields faltered, and within moments, the ship's systems began to fail. Sparks flew from the hull, and the once mighty vessel began to break apart. The Xelvarian fleet, now in disarray, began to retreat. They had not expected this. Earth's attack had shattered their confidence, and for the first time, the Empire knew that they were not invincible. Back on Earth, the world watched in awe. The strike had been successful. Humanity had dealt a blow to the Xelvarian Empire, and the message was clear. Earth would not kneel. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, humanity had taken control of its destiny. The victory of the Phantom mission sent shockwaves through the Xelvarian Empire. For the first time, they felt vulnerable. They had underestimated humanity, and the cost of that mistake was becoming clear. The Empire's once unshakable confidence was now clouded with doubt. But even in the face of failure, they were not ready to give up. General Kale, the ruthless leader of the Xelvarian fleet, was furious. The loss of the flagship was a blow to the Empire's honor, and he knew they needed to respond, quickly and decisively. The Xelvarians had underestimated human resilience once, and he wasn't going to let it happen again. "Prepare for a full-scale invasion," General Kale ordered. "We will crush them once and for all." The humans may have fought back, but now they will face the full might of the Empire. The Empire's ships were repaired, and new reinforcements arrived. The Xelvarian fleet, now larger and more powerful than before, set its sights on Earth. The Xelvarian commanders had learned from their mistakes. This time, they would wipe humanity off the map. Back on Earth, President Miller gathered with General Clark and the world leaders to discuss the next move. The Phantom had dealt a heavy blow to the Empire, but they knew it wouldn't be enough to stop them. The Xelvarian fleet was coming back stronger than ever. "We've bought ourselves some time," General Clark said, looking at the map of the solar system. "But we can't keep relying on small victories. We need a plan that will change the course of this war." Dr. Emily Jo, who had been working tirelessly on Earth's weapons, spoke up. "We've been developing a new weapon. It's still in the testing phase, but it could be the key to winning this war." The room fell silent. "What kind of weapon?" President Miller asked, intrigued. "It's a planetary defense system," Dr. Zhao explained. "We've been developing a way to harness the energy of the sun itself. If we can use this weapon, we can unleash a devastating blast that could cripple the Xelvarian fleet, if we hit them at the right moment." President Miller frowned. "It's risky. The energy required to harness the sun's power would be enormous. If it fails, it won't fail," Dr. Zhao said with confidence. "We've tested it on a small scale. We just need to calibrate it for a larger target. The Xelvarian fleet will never expect it." The decision was made. Earth's fate depended on this new weapon, and it had to be ready before the Empire arrived. As the days passed, the tension on Earth grew. People knew that the Selverian fleet was on its way, and this time there would be no hiding. Earth had to make its stand. The Solaris cannon, as the new weapon was called, was constructed in a secret location on Earth's moon. A massive array of solar collectors was built to focus the sun's energy into a beam of incredible power. It was humanity's last hope, but it was also their greatest weapon. The Empire's fleet arrived at the outskirts of the solar system, their massive warships looming like shadows in the distance. They were ready to finish what they had started. General Kale was confident that this time, nothing would stop them. He had been studying Earth's defenses and knew that the planet was not prepared for what was coming. "We will strike immediately," he ordered, his voice full of malice. "The humans are no longer a threat. This war ends today." But the humans were not as unprepared as the Empire thought. As the Selverian fleet began to advance, the Solaris cannon was powered up, its massive array of mirrors and solar cells gathering energy from the sun. The whole of Earth held its breath. "We're ready," General Clark said, his voice steady. "Fire when you're ready, Dr. Zhou." Dr. Zhou gave the order. "Engage the Solaris cannon." The beam shot out, a blinding flash of light streaking across space toward the Selverian fleet. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. The Selverian ships tried to dodge, but the blast was too fast. One by one, the first wave of warships was struck, their shields unable to withstand the power of the sun's energy. Explosions ripped through their hulls, sending debris flying. General Kale's eyes widened as he saw his ships being destroyed. The humans had done the impossible. Their weapon had worked. It was more powerful than anything he had ever imagined. "Retreat, fall back," he ordered, but it was too late. The Solaris cannon fired again, striking another wave of ships. The Selverian fleet, once proud and unstoppable, was in disarray. The humans had dealt a crippling blow. Earth had taken the fight to them, and it had won. Back on Earth, the world erupted into celebration. The Solaris cannon had done its job, and the Selverian fleet had been severely weakened. But President Miller knew that this was not the end. They had won a battle, but the war was still far from over. The Selverians would not give up so easily. General Kale would return, and the Empire would rebuild. But Earth had shown them something that would change everything. Humanity was no longer a prey species. It was a force to be reckoned with. The battle was far from over. While Earth had made a significant strike with the Solaris cannon, the Selverian Empire was far too powerful to be defeated by one shot. General Kale, though stunned by the damage to his fleet, was not a man to give up easily. He retreated to regroup, but his thirst for revenge was far greater than any military setback. On Earth, President Miller and his team worked around the clock. The Solaris cannon had delivered a devastating blow, but Earth's forces were still outmatched. They knew that the Empire would not back down. With the Selverian fleet regrouping, Earth had only one option left: prepare for the final battle. General Clark was deep in thought as he looked over the status of Earth's defense systems. He knew the Empire's next attack would be massive. "We've hurt them badly, but they'll come back stronger," he said. "We can't fight them with what we have now." Dr. Emily Zhou, who had worked tirelessly on the Solaris cannon, came up with a new idea. "We need to fight smarter, not harder. What if we could use their own technology against them?" The room went silent. The thought of using Selverian technology was risky, but it was a chance they had to take. The humans had already managed to use the Solaris cannon to their advantage. Now they had to turn the Empire's strengths into weaknesses. "We have captured Selverian ships before," Dr. Zhou continued. "We've studied them, learned their weaknesses. If we can infiltrate their systems, we can turn their ships against them. We'll need to get close, though." General Clark nodded. "We'll need a team of experts to hack into their systems. If we can disable their fleet, we might have a shot at defeating them." It was a bold plan, but with the Empire's fleet coming, There was no time to waste. The humans had to act fast. Meanwhile, aboard the Leave Selvarian warship, General Kale was furious. The damage to his fleet was immense. He had lost many of his best ships, and the Earthlings had proven that they were not to be underestimated. But Kale's anger was not just at the humans. It was at himself for allowing this to happen. He had miscalculated. Now he would make sure the humans paid the price. "We will annihilate Earth," Kale growled. "I will personally lead the assault. They will learn that defying the Empire comes with consequences." The Empire's fleet was once again mobilizing. This time, it was more than just an invasion. It was an extermination. Kale had set his sights on Earth, and he was prepared to do whatever it took to end this war. As Earth's leaders prepared their counterattack, the tension between the two sides was palpable. Earth's forces were still reeling from the damage to their fleet and the losses they had sustained, but their resolve was stronger than ever. The Solaris cannon had proven they could fight back. Now they just had to figure out how to finish what they had started. "We have one chance," General Clark said, addressing the team. "We've learned their weaknesses. We can't afford to fail now." The humans had one final weapon: intelligence. They had intercepted Selvarian communications and gathered enough data to know the Empire's movements. The humans had cracked their code. The Empire's fleet was coming, but Earth knew when and where they would strike. With the Solaris cannon at the ready, Earth launched its counterattack. This time, however, they would rely on more than just brute force. They would use the Empire's own technology against them. A small fleet of human ships, armed with EMP devices designed to disable Selvarian systems, made its way into the heart of the enemy fleet. Their mission was clear: disable the Selvarian ships from the inside. But it was dangerous. The enemy would not give them a chance to strike. As the humans closed in on their target, the Selvarian fleet prepared for the final assault on Earth. The Selvarians, confident in their overwhelming numbers, were unaware of the human ambush. The humans knew they had only one shot. As the first wave of Selvarian ships entered the trap, the human fleet launched its EMP devices. The blast was instantaneous. Selvarian ships that had once been unbeatable now found themselves paralyzed, their shields down, their weapons useless. The human ships moved in quickly, attacking with precision. General Kale watched in disbelief as his fleet faltered. His ships, once the pride of the Empire, were now helpless. "No," he screamed. "Get them back online. Now." But it was too late. The humans had anticipated every move, and the Empire's fleet was quickly losing the fight. Earth's forces fought fiercely, taking down ship after ship. In the heat of the battle, General Clark's voice crackled over the communication channel. "The Solaris cannon is ready. This is it, everyone. We end this now." With that, the final shot of the Solaris cannon was fired, the blinding beam cutting through the remnants of the Selvarian fleet. The blast was so powerful that it tore through the enemy ships like paper. The tide had truly turned. Back on Earth, the humans watched as the last of the Selvarian ships exploded into the void. The battle was won. The Selvarian Empire had been dealt a crushing blow, and Earth had proven that it would not bow to any invader. But even as Earth celebrated, President Miller knew the war was not over. The Selvarian Empire would rebuild. They would return. But now, Earth had the knowledge and strength to face them again. The humans had refused to kneel, and now they were ready for whatever came next. The battle for Earth was far from over. While the Selvarian fleet had suffered tremendous losses, their empire was vast. The war had just entered a new phase, and Earth's victory was not yet certain. President Miller paced back and forth in the war room. The human forces had fought valiantly, but Earth had become the focal point of an entire empire's rage. The Selvarian Empire had retreated, but not for long. They would rebuild and return. "We can't rest yet," President Miller said to his advisors. "The Selvarians will come again, stronger than before. We need a plan, something to ensure that we never have to face them again." General Clark, still riding high from the recent victory, knew the stakes were higher than ever. We've hurt them badly, but Earth is their target now. They won't stop until they wipe us out. We need to find a way to end this war, once and for all. The human strategy had always been about survival, but now it had to evolve. It wasn't just about fighting back anymore. It was about taking the fight to the Empire's heart. Dr. Emily Joe, who had been instrumental in the creation of the Solaris cannon, had another idea. We know that Selvarian Empire's leadership, their strategies, their weak points. We infiltrated their communications and technology. Now it's time to hit them where it hurts most, their homeworld. The room fell silent. The thought of launching an attack on the heart of the Empire was both terrifying and exhilarating. Earth had proven that it could win battles, but that Selvarian Empire was an entire civilization, and its heart was the source of its power. General Clark nodded. If we're going to do this, we need to be prepared for everything. The Selvarians will have their best defenses protecting their homeworld. But it's our best shot at ending this war. We have to take it. The plan was simple but dangerous. Earth would send a small, highly skilled team to infiltrate the Selvarian homeworld. They would disable the Empire's central command and disrupt the flow of their resources. It was a mission that had to succeed if Earth was to have any hope of survival. As Earth's fleet prepared for the boldest mission in human history, General Kale, back aboard the flagship of the Selvarian fleet, was already planning his next move. He had been humiliated by Earth's recent victory, but the anger in his heart burned brighter than ever. "This will not stand," he muttered to himself. "I will lead the final assault. Earth's time is over." The Selvarian general's words were cold with rage. His fleet would regroup, and with it, he would wipe out every last trace of humanity. But he knew that Earth had proven itself to be a formidable foe. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered his commanders. "This time, we crush them." As Kel readied his forces, the humans prepared for their own journey into the heart of enemy territory. It was a suicide mission for most, but there were those who were willing to sacrifice everything. Earth's finest warriors, engineers, and intelligence officers would make the journey. Dr. Joe, overseeing the preparation of the ship, walked through the hangar. The sleek human spacecraft was fitted with the latest technology, designed to avoid detection and strike quickly. She had worked long hours to ensure the mission would be as successful as possible. She had also prepared herself mentally. If this mission failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. "We can do this," she said to herself. "We must." As the launch time approached, the team gathered in the ship's command center. The mission ahead was terrifying, but their resolve was unshakable. "This is it," General Clark said, looking at the diverse group of men and women who had volunteered for this dangerous mission. "We do this for Earth, for our future. We won't let the Selvarians win." The ship's engines hummed as the countdown began. The doors closed, sealing the fate of the human team. Outside, the vastness of space stretched before them. This was it, the most dangerous journey any human had ever undertaken. "We're ready," General Clark said. He could feel the weight of the moment. This mission could either end the war or see Earth's destruction. There was no turning back. The ship shot forward, past the Earth's atmosphere, and into the void of space. The Selvarian homeworld loomed ahead, a world that had once seemed invincible. Now, it was the final target of humanity's desperate fight for survival. Meanwhile, back on Earth, President Miller watched the mission unfold from the war room. He knew that humanity's future depended on the success of this strike. The Selvarian Empire was vast, and even with all of Earth's advancements, taking down their heart would require more than technology. It would require the will to survive. "I trust them," President Miller said quietly, though his heart raced with anticipation. "This is humanity's last stand." Back in the ship, the crew braced themselves for the battle ahead. They had faced impossible odds before, but this time it felt different. The Selvarians were more dangerous than ever. But there was one thing that Earth had that the Empire did not: a burning desire to never kneel. "We'll make it," General Clark said, determination in his eyes. "We'll end this. For Earth." The mission to the Selverian homeworld was a dangerous gamble, but Earth had already proven that it could take on the impossible. And now they had one last chance to turn the tide of the war once and for all. The team was deep within enemy space, moving closer to their objective with every passing moment. The Selverian homeworld loomed in the distance, a planet covered in vast cities and military strongholds. The tension aboard the ship was palpable, as everyone prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. They had no illusions about the risks. They all knew that if they failed, Earth's fate would be sealed. General Clark stood at the ship's control panel, staring at the readouts. "We're almost there," he said, his voice steady but filled with an undercurrent of urgency. "Stay sharp, everyone. Once we breach the atmosphere, we have no room for mistakes." Dr. Emily Jo moved around the ship's command center, adjusting various instruments. She had spent countless hours working on the ship's advanced cloaking technology, which had so far kept them undetected. But she knew the Selverians were not fools. Once they were within range, the Empire would unleash everything they had to stop them. "The cloaking system is holding up," she said, looking over her shoulder at the general. "But it won't last forever. Once we hit the surface, we'll need to disable their defense grid and their command center fast." Clark nodded, his expression hardening. He had seen the destruction that Selverians were capable of. The thought of them regaining control was not an option. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Miller and his team watched the operation unfold from a secure command center. They could only wait, knowing that if this mission failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. "There's no turning back now," Miller muttered. "We put everything we had into this." The first wave of enemy ships had already begun to move toward Earth's orbit. The Selverian fleet was preparing for their last assault, but the humans had something the Empire didn't: the resolve to fight for their future, no matter the odds. Back on the ship, the crew's focus never wavered. As they entered the atmosphere of the Selverian homeworld, alarms sounded. The cloaking device had been breached. The enemy knew they were here. "Brace for impact," Clark shouted as the ship shook violently from enemy fire. "We need to land. Now." The ship raced toward the planet's surface, dodging blasts from the Selverian defense towers. The ground approached quickly, and the team knew this would be their final chance. They had to succeed. There was no other way. As the ship skidded to a halt on the surface, the crew jumped into action. Clark and Joe led the charge, rushing toward the nearest entrance to the Empire's central command. The atmosphere was thick with tension, but there was no time to hesitate. Earth's future depended on what happened in the next few minutes. "Deploy the EMP devices," Clark ordered. "We'll need to knock out their communications before we make our move." Joe activated the devices, and the team spread out. They moved like shadows, expertly navigating through the sprawling complex, avoiding detection by the Selverian security forces. The Empire had set up their defenses well, but they hadn't counted on human ingenuity. "We're almost there," Clark said, voice low but steady. "Once we breach the central command, it's over for them." The team reached the control room, where they set to work disabling the central systems. Joe quickly hacked into the mainframe, her fingers flying over the keys as she worked to lock down the Empire's control systems. The lights flickered as the EMPs did their job, knocking out power to key parts of the complex. "Done," Joe said, a rare smile crossing her face. "The Empire's central command is offline. Their fleet is blind." Clark nodded. "Now, let's make sure they can't recover." Suddenly, alarms rang out, and the sound of footsteps echoed through the corridors. The team had only moments before Selverian soldiers arrived. Clark motioned to the rest of the team. "We have to get out of here. Now." The team sprinted toward the exit, with Selverian soldiers hot on their heels. The ship was their only hope, but the odds of getting out alive were slim. They fought their way through the complex, taking down soldiers who stood in their way. Outside, their ship sat waiting, cloaked and ready for their escape. But they weren't safe yet. The Xelvarian forces were closing in. The ship's engines roared to life as Clark and Joe made a dash for the ship, their team following closely behind. As they lifted off from the surface of the Xelvarian homeworld, a powerful explosion rocked the ground beneath them. The command center was no more. "We did it," Zhao said, her breath coming in short gasps. "The Empire can't recover from this. Their leadership is gone. Their fleet is lost. We've won." But Clark's face remained hard. "It's not over yet. The Xelvarian fleet is still out there. We have to make sure they can never threaten Earth again." As the human team made their way back to Earth, the Xelvarian fleet began to scatter. The heart of their empire had been destroyed, and they had no leader to guide them. Without the strength of their central command, the once mighty empire was no more. Back on Earth, President Miller stood in the war room, watching the final stages of the battle unfold. "We've won," he said quietly, his voice filled with awe. "Humanity will survive. The Xelvarian Empire is finished." The world erupted in cheers as Earth celebrated the victory, knowing that their refusal to kneel had saved them all. Humanity had faced the impossible, and they had emerged victorious. The war was over. The Xelvarian Empire was no more. And Earth had proven that, no matter the odds, humanity would never surrender.